Hey guys, welcome to the next episode of the BioCup 2018 coverage here on my channel. And welcome to the Bionicle Inspiration Series too, the series where we review mocks to inspire you for future things that you build or future contests that you may enter. This episode again is talking about the Preliminaries, otherwise known as Round 1, which I mistakenly have been calling them, although technically it's not Round 1, it's the Prelims. Little quick disclaimer before we start the video. Bear in mind, as of the time that I am recording this video, there are 124 entries into the BioCup. Well done, everyone. That's an amazing turnout. Freaking fantastic. So good that so many of you entered. So many of you had the courage to build something and put yourself out there. May the best man win. That's fantastic. But that is actually not the disclaimer. The actual disclaimer in itself is there are 124 entries. That's a lot to review. If your mock wasn't featured in this or any other episode, don't you fret, good sir, because it'll probably be featured in another. Bear in mind, I'll be doing multiple episodes on the prelims as well as future rounds as well, and we'll also have podcasts and things like that where some of the judges will even cover your mock. So if it doesn't appear, bear in mind I've got a lot to cover, so you may see it in the future, you may not. But doesn't mean it won't appear on the BioCup coverage. It might appear on a normal BIS episode. So stay tuned and don't you fret, good sir. It may appear in future. So let's begin this episode by talking about some of the cool entries that were entered into round 1. I'm pretty much just randomly picking at this point. If I've got something to talk about it, I'll put it up. Like I said, you'll see him in the future, so no worries. Let's look at the first mock by Mitch Phillips, and it's called T Hookah. I absolutely love this mock. As soon as I saw it, I needed to zoom in on the pictures, have a closer look, because there's some fantastic stuff going on here. It's really, really cool. Such an incredible, brilliant use of some of the new cloth pieces that came with the CCBS Range Trooper from the Star Wars Ultra Build Han Solo sets. What a great way to create some beautiful, beautiful shaping, as well as to sort of think a little bit about texture. So obviously this mock is a sort of Rahi representation of a polar bear. You know, if you were to look at the actual inspiration, the actual source material of an actual polar bear, obviously they've got a lot of fur. And those cloth pieces are actually really cool because they have a very sort of furry texture, which is a little bit different to a traditional cloth, which is sort of a bit more of a smoother fabric. And so that alone is really good for the polar bear design just because it works. But it's even cooler how he shaped it around the face here to almost form such a smooth, beautiful, natural, organic face design. Some very clever usages of that cloth piece to create a beautiful overall shape, as well as to create a really beautiful, effective texture that works well with the source material. Very, very cleverly done, and it's continued there on the back too, so it doesn't look too out of place, and ironically, it flows rather well, in my opinion, with the rest of the build, so some very, very clever stuff going on there. I love it. Speaking of clever stuff going on, I love his little nose. It's one of those little old missile pieces there. Actually works really well for a bear nose. I love it. A very, very clever part use there. Speaking of clever part usages, very, very effective, nicely designed eyes here. Simply using lightsaber rods and studs with a hole in the middle there to achieve that design. Very clever. Nice way to create some very effective, cute looking eyes. And two other things that I like, I really, really love how simple the front of these legs here are, simply using these tires here to create the overall shape. It works, it's simple, you still get a good amount of posability from it, it looks like. It just works. It's simple but effective. And speaking of simple but effective, very nice way of showing the element here. Obviously the fact it's a polar bear is pretty obvious that the element is ice. That little extra addition there of adding all these sort of ice electric spiky piece things there on the back, you know, it kind of looks like he's got all these icicles on his back. Very, very elemental, very Bionicle-y. I really like that. I think it's really effective. And yeah, just a nice little sort of extra addition there to represent the element. Really, really works, and I think is a brilliant addition to this mock. If it didn't have that, it would still look cool, but not as cool. Anyway, fantastic work, Mitch Phillips. A fantastic, well-designed mock with some great concepts. Let's move on to the next mock, and this is Jack Frost and his mock, Fire Elemental Containment Suit. I suppose I should say, although I feel like you'd know by this point, the theme for this round was elements. And so that's why I was mentioning the ice elements before, and of course the element of this is fire, hence the name. Yes. Anyway, so I love this mock. What a brilliant way of combining Galador and CCBS. Heck, and you know what? He's actually combined Bionicle and System as well as the Hero Factory and Galador. He's combined every Construction theme except Ben 10, I guess. Okay, maybe not. He's combined a lot, though, and that in itself is kind of cool, so nicely done. But besides the point, really, really cool how well he's integrated a lot of these Galador pieces. You know, these arm pieces here that are used as the legs, it's actually a really effective, brilliant design. You know, kind of getting this kind of digigrade leg design there. It's just effective. It's unique. It's always nice to see mocks that play around with how the legs are done. You know, you don't necessarily need to just go with a typical humanoid leg design. Can you play around with it? Does it work? See what you can do. And I think this is a simple but very effective way of doing that, and a very clever part usage to use those arm pieces there to create that leg design. It's very, very cool. I really like it. Also, some very clever ways of showing the element here. All the Galador pieces have that sort of mechanical, greebly texture to them, and it's just really effective. It looks really nice. And then the actual fire parts of this are the hands and the head, which are all trans orange colors and stuff like that. And just, yeah, playing with the colors and playing with the textures in that manner is really, really clever. Really, really effective. It's just a nice way to show off the element, and it's even a more sort of clever representation because, you know, one side is mechanical suit that's maybe sort of keeping him together, and the rest is just flame, and yeah, it sort of shows character. It's really effective. I really like that. And so I think that's cool how he's played with the different themes to actually represent the different parts of the mock. It's very, very clever. So nicely done there. A great way to represent both the element as well as kind of play around with some textures and get some unique stuff going on. Very, very cool. Let's move on to the next mock, which is by Arctic Pine and is called Panaka of the Wind. Now, I love this. If I had entered the BioCup, I probably would have done something similar to this. I always am a fan of that sort of elemental sprite kind of thing, something you'd see in a fantasy role-play game, something like that, something you summon. I don't know, it's just a cool aesthetic in my opinion. And I think this mock really achieves that well and matches the element to that very well. So it's very, very clever. Again, we were talking a little bit before about, you know, do you even need legs? So this is sort of a hover guy. He just sort of has this cone piece at the end there. And I think that's very clever. And also, kind of the general shape of that, it almost sort of looks a bit like an engine or a turbine. And that in itself lends it towards the element of air or wind. And that in itself is clever. Kind of a nice way to justify a part of a mock. You know, it's essentially the point. If you can justify something that you're putting on a mock, well then of course you can put it on, even if it's a little bit weird or a little bit odd. So, not that I'm thinking this is in any way kind of weird or odd, but, you know, maybe you've built a mock and you go, no, it has tentacles instead of legs, and if you can find a way to justify it, yeah, of course it works. It's perfect. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about some of the other wind element representations on this mock. He's used a really fun, new, odd piece. So for those of you who maybe don't know, some of the current Ninjago sets, or Ninjago, however you want to pronounce it, they have this cool sort of weird piece that allows you to kind of pull back a kind of blade style, pull back a little pulley thingamajig, and then the spinning top flies away with the ninja inside it. And he's used those actual pieces and used them as sort of like wind turbines on his hands. And that's such a clever arm design, that's such a clever part use. It's really effective and a great way to show off the wind element. It's cool as well that he's used them as the actual arms instead of some sort of like cannon on his back or something. That said, that would be pretty sweet, but it just looks cool. It's very effective and nicely done. And speaking of which, we see even more elements and even more aspects of the element throughout the mock. You know, he's got little additions there on the face and the arms of these wing pieces. Now, obviously those, at least the way that I look at them, they aren't actual wings. They're just sort of like a detailed part of this guy's armor. But I think that actually works really well and is really clever. It's just kind of subtly reminding you like, hey, this guy's element's wind, and so he's got things that kind of, you know, remind you of wind on it. I think that in itself is really clever and really creative. And even certain aspects like some of the trans blue here. I don't know, if I was to assign a color to wind, I guess I would assign trans blue to it. You know, it's a color that, you know, kind of reminds you of that. And then, of course, you got these trans blue wind turbines there on the other wind turbines. So yeah, there's just a lot of subtle, sweet little reminders there, whether it's color, whether it's the type of part or the texture of the part or the actual look of the part. You know, I've said this before in some of the other episodes covering the BioCup. You have little things there that kind of subtly remind you of the other aspects of the element. It's just a nice little addition. It works well and it creates a nice sort of sense of unity. You don't necessarily have to repeat a part, you can repeat a concept or a theme, and that's really, really cool and really clever and really creative. So nicely done. Speaking of cool and creative, I love as well how he has used the actual pullback, kind of puller tube thingamajigs there that you actually use to propel the spinning top thing that comes with the Ninjago sets, he's kind of used them, at least the way that I view them, almost as a kind of like tube of some kind. Maybe like the air kind of travels through that and propels the wind turbines to move. It's nice. It's a nice addition. It's a clever part use. It works well. And it's, again, it just seems to flow well with the Mach. Like, it kind of makes sense that he'd have these tubes there to power his weapons and stuff like that. It's just a nice addition. It's very cool. A lot of really unique and cool designs with this Mach, and clever part usages, and just a very nice way of representing the element and theme. So, very, very cool. Let's move on to the bonus Mach, which I've actually got 2 for this episode because I had a lot to talk about. I'm sorry, but, I don't think people mind. So, first of the 2 bonus Machs is by Luke Staton and is called Surprise! Someone did the thing I said! Thank you! I love that. That's awesome. If you were paying attention to the last episode, I was like, someone should do the element of surprise, and someone did! Excellent! Nicely done! Really like what he's done here with the legs. They're simple, and the arms for that matter. They're both simple. They're just, some Hero Factory limbs and some arms and legs and things like that. But it works. The concept with this Mach of it being like a clown, it's not a serious Mach. You're not supposed to take it seriously. It's just fun. And I like that. Maybe that's something to think about. Don't take stuff so seriously, It's like, just sometimes you can just have fun. You don't need to build a super awesome tour with the huge powers. Sometimes you can just sit back, relax, and just build something fun. Whether it's super simple and not that complicated, and doesn't even use that much parts, but you have fun doing it. It's a joke. It's clever. Joke Machs are the best. I love joke Machs. So have a think about that. Whether it's for the BioCup or not, can you build a joke Mach? Because you'll have fun doing it. It's funny, and you get some cool stuff like this. So it's very nicely done. Really, really clever way, and a really simple way, too, of creating the actual lettering on this Mach, using some flex tubes and simply finding ways of connecting them onto this system box thing there. It's effective, it works, and it's still purist, so it's awesome. I mean, okay, he's cut some flex tube, but people argue about whether or not that's purist because some LEGO sets ask you to do it, so yeah, who knows. But besides the point, very effective and very clever, and a great way of representing the element, and a lovely little addition with these balloons and the little party hat there. Very, very cool. Nicely done. And one quick thing I wanted to talk quickly about with this Mach is the notion of don't necessarily deny any ideas. Going into a creative space, often applying rules can be limiting. If you're, you say, okay, I want to build something, but, last time I built something, some guy said that, I used an illegal technique and that was bad, so I better not do that, Don't necessarily apply too many rules to yourself. If you're in a contest and there are rules, maybe try not to think about them. Just because often applying rules can kind of limit you in some fashion. Creativity is such a beautiful thing because, like if you look at the creativity of a child, they don't even care about rules. I was speaking to a kid today, and he insulted me. He's like, man, you're so pale. Why are you so pale? I'm like, man, don't insult that I'm pale. And, but it was still it was funny, and it was kind of adorable, because he's a kid. And it's that thing that kids don't care about boundaries or social, rules or anything like that. And yet, kids are some of the most creative people in the world, aren't they? And I think there's something beautiful in that, is the fact that not applying rules or not even thinking about how someone might judge you or something can lead to such amazing creativity. And I mean, I don't even know if this Mach is an example of that or not, but it sparked me to talk about this, so you're gonna listen now. But I think that's something to keep in mind. When you're building, don't put any kind of rules on it. And like I was saying before, if it's a contest and there are rules, maybe just build in whatever realm you want to build in. Don't even think about anything. If you've heard someone say, oh, you should never do that, don't even think about that. Do it anyway. And then when you're done, go, okay, maybe that's a problem. I'm going to fix that. But build and play in a space where it doesn't matter what you do. There are no rules. You can just completely let go and have fun, because that's when some of the most exciting, cool, creative stuff comes out, and that's where you want to be when you're making stuff, because it's exciting, you get cool end results, it's awesome. Anyway, sorry, I got sidetracked. The bonus Mach is by Xtrix. That was my Rhodian translation of it, I guess. I don't know how to pronounce this name. Xtrick X, I think, something like that, and his Mach is called Elemental Asura. Very, very cool Mach. Some nice stuff going on here. We briefly touched upon a similar concept with this in the last episode of, screw it, let's do all the elements, because that's so much fun. Again, screw the rules, do what you want, have all the things, have fun. Very, very cool. That said, Read the rules of the Biocup and be sure you follow them, but don't let that limit your creativity. But stick to the rules. I'm more saying in terms of like, don't follow the rules. Don't let that be a creative block that actually stops you creating at all or generating ideas. Putting rules in front of you can act as a wall that limits and blocks you. So don't limit yourself is more what I'm saying. Not don't follow the rules. Please follow the Biocup rules, because otherwise you'll get disqualified. Oopsie. Anyway, let's talk about the mock. And something that I like about this that I wanted to briefly touch upon is, if you look at the fingers on this mock, each design is different, and I really like that. You know, you look at the blue arm here, and he's used some system clip pieces. You look at the lime arm here, he's used some of these fancy-dancy new connector pieces for the fingers. You look at the black arm here, and he's used a claw part. You look at the yellow arm here, he's used a Baraki tooth thingamajig for kind of a clawed finger design. And then you look at the white arm, he's used a Glatorian hand. You look at the red arm, he's used Hydraxan fingers, as well as some of those Exoforce claws with cylinders and stuff. Look at that. 4 unique, really clever hand and finger designs. And to some way, each one represents the element in some fashion. And I think that's cool in itself. Is just like, look at the amount of possibilities there are and how cool that is. That thing as well of being able to, depending on what the element is that you're choosing, you can kind of style the finger or any part of the mock really to represent that. And look at all the cool, exciting possibilities that we just see on this one mock here that you can use with finger designs. And I'm just talking about one aspect with the fingers, but the same rules really apply to anything else on a mock. There's always a different way to approach something, and how fun is that you can take, you know, the most rudimentary thing of fingers, which, you know, pretty much every mock has, but there's so many different ways of doing it. There's so many fun, cool ways to approach something, ways to do something, ways to explore something, because you're able to play with the element and relate things back to that or not. I'm not sure if I'm making sense anymore. I woke up at 5:30 this morning, so, you know, haven't slept much, but that's fine because I'm having a good time. Alright, okay. Maybe I need to go to bed, guys. Maybe I need to go to bed. That's the end of this episode, guys. An awesome mock. Sorry, actually, I briefly spoke about Mr. Elemental Asura here, but very clever finger design. Really, really cool how a lot of that works. And just a cool concept that this mock kind of really inspired me and I kind of wanted to have a bit of a chat about that. So, nicely done. Always cool to see a multi-armed mock. And using a Baraki head too. I love Baraki heads, man. They're so cool. Anyway, besides the point, 5 very cool mocks from the Biocup. That's a lot of mocks, guys. That's a lot of mocks. Congratulations to all those who entered. Congratulations to all of those who advanced into the next round. I don't think that by the time this episode comes out, you'll know who advanced or not, but that's sort of besides the point, as long as you had fun. See you in round 2/round 1/whatever it's called, because I messed up on the names, my bad. See you in the next round of the Biocup, and I'll see you in future podcasts where we will continue our coverage of the preliminaries. And finally, after the judges have finished judging, you can hear some of their thoughts on some of the mocks. How exciting. Alright guys, I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.